We can say that 98, 99% of Muslims in this country are good people. So this is nothing against Muslims, but the fact is that is where the threat is coming from. And we're kidding ourselves. We have this blind political correctness, which makes no sense.
New York Congressman Peter King calling for better surveillance of mosques, saying Islamic terrorists are visiting them and speaking radically. This as the New York Post is reporting new phone records linked the San Bernardino terrorist to a cleric at a California mosque. Should we be keeping a closer eye on mosques here in the United States? Here to debate it, the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, and Muslim American attorney Shayan Elahi. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on Fox and Friends.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Zuhdi, the cleric tells the FBI, according to the New York Post, that the messages he exchanged with Saeed Farouk, the San Bernardino terrorist, was more about a food drive than it was about anything else, even though there was curious timing around the Chattanooga military installation shootings. Do you buy that story, and should he be watched?
Well, I think it depends how we define radicalization. I don't buy the fact that this imam really had no clue about how Muslims are radicalized. He may not have seen them talking about weapons or anything violent, but the way we define radicalization is important, and this mosque clearly was the home for many of the group called Tablighi Jamaat, which is a pretty cultish organization that's anti-American, and this imam has been seen posting comments about America killing Muslims in the Middle East, etc. So the pathway towards radicalization, this ideology, we've surrendered by not monitoring, and mosques should not be havens, should not be sanctuaries for these ideologies. They may not be preaching violence, but we are surrendering to the threat if we don't. And by the way, as a Muslim, these mosques are open public places, so I'm trying to figure out what exactly we want to hide, since they're supposed to be public places. Nobody's talking about giving up any civil rights.
Well, and I want to get your take on this, Shayan. Peter King talks about how, hey, this has been done in American Italian communities and Irish communities back in the day to stop gangs and the mafia. It worked then. Is it wrong now?
Well, first of all, I'm a civil rights attorney and also an American Muslim. But one, this is not a mafia. We're talking about First Amendment right of religious freedom, and also the right to not be legally searched and seized, which is a constitutional right. So when we talk about Muslims at large, we must distinguish between American Muslims who have the protection of the Constitution and Muslims in large and the problems we face regarding radicalization. I just wrote an article in BuzzFeed where I talk about how we can fight radicalization. And one of the points I make is that American Muslims themselves must democratize their mosques. One of the problems I think our community faces is that these mosques are being run like mega churches. And so in the boards, you don't have enough women or young people representing it. And also the imams that we talk about have to be from our communities.
Right, but we're talking about
Americans.
Surveillance, not the way that they're run and the leadership there, Shayan.
Well, but they're connected. They're connected. I think it's an important aspect of it. Because, see, surveillance has been slapped down. Collective guilt and collective accusations that Mr. King has been making for over a decade has been slapped down by the law, by the courts.
I want you to get in here one more time, Dr. Jasser, because,
sure.
I mean, in trying times like this, should investigators just sit on their hands?
No one says
that. This is the part that we're
Obviously,
missing,
no
is that while Mr. Elahi may be making some good suggestions, which many of us have been making for years and they've been ignoring,
I haven't heard you make them ever. I have never have you made them.
I did not interrupt you. So the bottom line is that many of these Muslim organizations are obstructing.
And we're going to have to leave it right there. We'll continue this conversation, though. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
20 minutes.